Shabbat Shalom. Birashut Rabbanan. This week's parasha contains probably one of the best-known stories in all of the Torah, which is the story of Jacob's ladder, which also was a Judaica store, if you all remember, over there by where Goldberg's is. Zichrono livracha, may its memory always be for a blessing. Right? Well, we know the story well. Right? When Jacob is fleeing his home through the desert, he comes upon a place, stops to rest for the night, takes a pillow, a stone, uses it as a pillow, and dreams of a ladder where angels are climbing up and down this ladder as it reaches to the heavens. Beautiful imagery. But I think it's interesting when Jacob wakes up that the more important thing sort of happens there. He says something that's really very fascinating. He says, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh, V'anochi lo yadati. Surely God is present in this place, and I did not know it. Why would Jacob say such a thing? What a weird thing to say. And to answer the question, I think we have to first try and understand a little bit more about Jacob and his life up until this point. Right? So what do we know? We know Jacob is a twin. We know his brother Esav is slightly problematic, at least according to the rabbinic tradition. We know that he is not his father's favorite. Perhaps Jacob is a bit of a mama's boy, right? We know also that Jacob is sometimes prone to do whatever it takes to get sort of the things that he needs. And it's this calculating side of Jacob's personality that led him to flee his home and puts him in the situation that he's in right now, that he comes to this place that he did not know where God was. What's a little less clear is Jacob's personal relationship with God, right? We know about Isaac's relationship with God. This is a relationship that is forged in the flames of the Akedah, and it's characterized by faithfulness and duty. Isaac openly calls God Elohei Avraham, the God of Avraham, and my God. He uses the term my God, having fully accepted this covenant for himself. Jacob, however, this relationship seems to have been something that God had with Isaac and not with him. Up until this point, we notice that God does not speak to Jacob, and Jacob has not spoken to God. His relationship and experiences with the divine are framed entirely by Isaac's faith, right? Something that he observed, but didn't actually participate in. Right? Jacob, currently on this journey, is not a spiritual journey. It's a flight from home, one of fear and uncertainty. And I think that it's here that we learn that God can be found in the most unexpected places. The place which is the in-between, right? When Jacob has this encounter, he's in the middle of his journey, poised between the departure and between the arrival. This is a Jacob who is not yet Israel, but also is not the same Jacob that fled from Beersheba. And the ladder itself also symbolizes this in-between state. It's a tool that connects the ground to wherever it is you're trying to reach. And as you climb, you sort of hover in between the ground and wherever it is you're going. And it's in this middle place sometimes that God shows up, most often unexpectedly. How many times have we been in between jobs, not knowing what comes next, only for the perfect thing to drop in your laps? Maybe you've been on a hike one day and you've made an unexpected stop to be greeted by the glory and beauty of creation that you might have missed if you had just kept going. Perhaps that relationship that ended and left you heartbroken, only to find that there was actually a better person for you, someone who truly makes you happy. These experiences I don't believe to be coincidences. There's an idea in the tradition that we sometimes call hashgacha pratit, or hashgacha pratis, which is, I call, a personal providence by God. We sometimes misunderstand this concept as predestination, but for me the idea is more of the fact that God takes care of us when we need it, but sometimes in ways that we don't always see, or that we don't always understand, and that are oftentimes unexpected. Our perception of these matters is taught to us by the Gemara, who teaches us that there are two kinds of people. There are people who see the world through an aspiklaria she'ena me'ira. These are people who see the world through an aspiklaria, which is a lens, sort of like a cloudy lens, a bit distorted, can't really see the truth. And then there are those who see the world through aspiklaria hameira. This are people that see the world through a clear lens, understanding that there is God in this place, and that there is God perhaps in these experiences. And it's common for us to view experiences of the divine in hindsight. We do this to ourselves often, only recognizing God's influence after something has already happened to us in that in-between space. Think about how many times something has happened to you and you've said, oh, thank God, after the fact, right? You didn't think about it before, but you think about it after, right? It's that moment that you perhaps thought was random or painful or meaningless, might actually have been the place where God stood with you and you didn't even know. Jacob's acknowledgement of this is shockingly honest, but also refreshing. There is something also very insightful in the dream. God says to Jacob, "Remember that I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." We know and we learn from this that God is with us. And this is the first time in the Torah that God says, "I will be with you and I will go with you." And it's really a profound message. Spanish Rabbi Rav Yitzchak Arama, who died in 1494, suggests in his work, the Akedat Yitzchak, that Jacob was simply unable to imagine that God could move from place to place with a person. The truth would only be revealed to him in the dream. And this was something that was inconceivable to Jacob, that the God of his father, Isaac, could also come with him and be his God too. And if it's true for Jacob, then it's certainly true for us. God doesn't wait for us to go backward, but walks with us through instability and chaos, standing with us when we need it most, even when we don't realize it. So, where are we? Where are we in our lives right now? Where are you? Are you in a liminal space? Are you in a transition? Are you in a holding pattern? Are you in a place that feels unfinished or unclear? Do you feel holiness in your lives? If you answered yes to any of these, or if you don't feel holiness in your life, then I think the question we have to ask is, do you believe? Do you believe God is with you in the chaos? Do you believe God is with you in uncertainty? Do you believe that God will walk with you when you walk into the unknown? What would it mean to believe that God is already there? There comes a time when we have to accept certain truths, whether we believe them or not. The fact is that God is with you. You might not know it, you might not feel it, you might not even believe it, but God is there. We have a responsibility to make sure that we are looking at the world through a clear lens without distortion and acknowledge the divine presence in our lives. Look at that aspiklaria clearly. When Jacob wakes up, he takes the stone and turns it upright into a marker, an acknowledgement that God is in this place, even though he didn't know. He turned it into a marker of faith, and we can do the same. When you think of yourselves in those moments, take a moment to clear your mind. Say a bracha, meditate, a short prayer, anything that you can to mark that moment with faith and with understanding that God is with you and God will walk with you wherever you go. Judaism has many in-betweens. We have the Bein Hashmashot. This is a murky halachic time that we consider to be sort of twilight between sunset and nightfall. This is a period where tradition teaches us is mysterious and that miracles can occur. We also have the Bein Ha'arbaim. This literally translates to in between the evenings, which refers to a halachic time in late afternoon that was important for the sacrificial system. The Zohar teaches us that it's during these in-between times that we see heavenly gates opening and closing, and that we should seize the opportunity and seize the moment. In the temple, second temple, to be clear, there was a space in between the curtains that separated the Kodesh from the Kodesh HaKodashim, the holy space to the Holy of Holies. There were two curtains, and there was a space in between them called the Amatraxim. This was a space that was only 1 cubit wide, and there's an idea in the tradition that teaches us that all of God's power can be contained in this small Amatraxim, in this tiny space. When the Kohen Gadol would walk in between the curtains on Yom Kippur, it would be God's presence in this Amatraxim that would protect him when he went into the Holy of Holies to utter the ineffable name. So it's my hope that we, like Yaakov, can discover the places that we never wanted to be, that are sometimes the very places where letters do appear, where angels ascend and descend, and where God has already been waiting for us, even if we didn't know it. Shabbat Shalom.